3, 2, 1, go. Alright, welcome to another 3D Sculpt and Chill. So I really want to make some souffle pancakes in Nomad Sculpt. So firstly, I make sure that I'm in Metcap. I'm going to get rid of this sphere. So we'll tap on the scene menu and we'll just delete this sphere. Let's add a box for now. And I'll bring this screen down to this red line. We can probably use the gizmo and let's make it a little bit bigger. And then we'll just shrink it and move it up to this red line. Perfect. Oops. Okay, so now I can get rid of this grid. I don't like the grid. We can validate this. If you have round edge, you can go ahead and you want to make sure you do it from the middle. Okay. If not, don't worry about it. But if you want to learn it, it's in the description. You can just check out rounded edge brush. Let's use the lathe tool. I haven't used the lathe tool in a while. We need to make a little plate. So let's use the path. So we need to just make half of the plate. I'll draw this line straight out and then lift off the screen. And then you make another line here. It kind of comes up a little bit. And then you just kind of rinse and repeat. I'll make another line up here. This is sort of the the rim of the plate, like that. So sort of like this. I'll make this a little bit flatter. And you can tap these and that kind of changes the shape as well. But we'll leave it round for now. And then we'll add another one here that goes right back to this line. So it's almost like we made a slice this way of a plate and a slice this way. So you do that, you hit the green button, and then it pretty much just makes the plate. But it's still not too plate-ish. So I think we need to, let's see, let's adjust this. Let's bring this down a little bit. Maybe we'll add a node there by tapping on the I still want the plate to be a little more round. So I'm going to add some, I'll go to 2. Because I want the plate to look round. And I don't want a weird thing in the middle here. So I'll push this down. There we go. So you just kind of manipulate the outside and kind of make the plate however you want to, but I think that looks pretty good. You can squeeze these together and you can also tap them again if you want to kind of experiment with that. But I think I want a nice round plate. And I might want a little thicker. I can just use the gizmo. Let's do pivot, center, pivot. It just centers up our gizmo to the plate. And you can still stretch it, things like that. So, but I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to bring this straight down onto our table. And actually, so it's not in the middle, and I really want it to be in the middle right now. So I'm just going to tap the gizmo here and just hit move origin, and that'll move it to world center, so the center of the project. And now I'll move it up. Okay, so something like that. So now we have a little base and we have a plate. I'll go ahead and save. I think I spelled that right. Okay, let's add. So this is going to be the plate. We can go ahead and rename that. So I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to add a torus. So we'll add a torus. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I say it like that. Let's validate the plate. So now we have our torus, and it's actually a decent size. Let's use our gizmo and just make it a bit smaller. And Maybe a little bit thicker, but smaller. Something like that. I want to stretch it because I don't want this to be that round, but I want it to be round. So that might be perfect. I think that might be good. It still might be a little bit too... Maybe that's better. I think I like that better. Okay, so that is good. But obviously it's a donut, and we don't really want a donut. So, let's validate it. And let's add... Here, let's add a cylinder. I'm going to line this up with the top. And then I'll line the bottom part with the bottom. And I guess that's not really helpful. I should have made it smaller first. So I'll make it smaller and then do the same thing. Let's just hit Gizmo to bring back these options. And I need to make it smaller again because I only want it to be in the middle. I think that's right. Yeah, so I really just want something like this. So that's going to be our basic souffle. Do a quick save. So we have the cylinder and the torus, and we can just voxel remesh them together. I'm using a shortcut down here. It's the same as going up here, voxel, and then adjusting from here. It's the same thing. It's just a shortcut. So we'll do 150 remesh. Smooth this out. Look at that beauty. Just hit solo, so make sure the bottom is nice and smooth too. That looks beautiful. Okay, so, and I actually want this to be a proper like platform. Actually, like I want this to be a proper, like maybe like a little booth or something, like a little cube. Not really sure. I'm gonna make it wide for now, like a countertop. And you know what we can do? Let's stretch it this way as well, make it a little bit wider. So this is gonna be the tabletop. Let's go ahead and clone it. And then we'll use the gizmo and we'll just move it. Let's do snap 90. And then use the red ring and just snap it like this. And just kind of put this on the back. So now we have a nice little booth. I think I want to make the plate a little bit bigger. And I don't feel like moving the plate up and down to make its surface level with the tabletop. So we'll hit pivot and then move the pivot down to the very bottom, hit pivot again, and then we can scale and it'll stay even with the thingy. It'll stay even with the table. So now the souffle is more of a decent size. We can probably make the plate a little bit bigger. So I think that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and change from lit PBR or from matte cap to lit PBR. Okay, so we have the tabletop and this is the backdrop. So we want to make sure that we just name everything so we're not confused. I'm going to nestle the tabletop and the backdrop. But the table, let's make both of these a light blue. So maybe somewhere, that's pretty good. And I think I want the tabletop to be a little bit more glossy. Okay, so now the plate, we can keep the plate white. Maybe even a little, no, I think I like white. Plate's obviously very glossy. Okay. So now we have the souffle. So let's make this I want to keep it. Oh, I don't know which one it is. I think it might be this one. I'm not sure. Okay, so now we're going to change this to a yellowish color. And there's one thing that I wanted to mention. Mine looks white, and the reason why it looks pretty white is because I'm using my own environment. So if you tap this little tab and you tap the environments, so these will all change the sort of hue of the white. So it's just something to keep in mind. I'm using my own environment here, and it's just the same one that I always use. So let's go ahead and tap on this, and then we want to make it a nice yellow color. So maybe something like this. We'll do it a little more dramatic. So we'll do something like that. Roughness is about 0.46 or 0.47, and that looks pretty good. So we'll just use select mask with rectangle, and let's actually add a layer. And this is going to be brown. Okay, so we'll just use rectangle, and we'll just make a rectangle in the middle. Okay, and now we just want to change it to a more brown color. I'm going to bring this down to orange, so it's a more pleasant brown. And we'll just paint that. And then we can go here to select mask and tap the mask options and clear it. And now we can use Smoothie Poo, which is just the smooth tool with 0 intensity. That's all it is, but you can clone it and save it, which is what I have here, and make it an embarrassing name. So now I'm just going to smooth out this brown here. Good. It's not bad. And you can also use smudge too. Sometimes I use smudge if I don't feel like it's kind of moving enough. Smudge will definitely make it move, but it's also not as it's not as clean as using the smooth tool. As you can see, it kind of like it moves things, but it's hard to control, because if it's in the pan, then it would mostly be the very bottom and the top that get cooked a little more. So I think that looks pretty good. But one of the great things about layers is you can tap on the layer and you can change the opacity too. So I can actually bring this down, and then I can just add another layer. You can go into the symmetry panel, and you can change it. So X is this symmetry, so it's doing it on the left and the right. But let's say we change that to, or actually we can keep it, but then let's also do the Y. Let's hit local. So now you see there's a green line, so it's doing top and bottom. It's always good to see these lines, so you can scroll down on the symmetry tab and you can hit show line. So now I can use paint, and we're on that new layer. And then I can just paint this on top. And I know that everything that's I'm doing on top is also happening on the bottom. So that's good. So now we'll use Smoothie Poo and just kind of smooth that out. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It looks great. And then you can just go through and adjust as needed. So we have our souffle. Let's go ahead and clone it. So this will be souffle top, souffle up. Use our gizmo and just move it up. But we really want to make it look kind of comfortable. Let's make sure it's on the plate first off. So we can take both of them and then make sure that they're on the plate, which is actually kind of hard to see. So now they look like they're on the plate, and they do look they're a little too perfect for me. So I'm going to take flatten. We'll do it on the up one. I'm going to take flatten and kind of just flatten it out a little bit. It just felt a little too round. So a little flatten should really help with that. And kind of keeping things a little bit more cylindrical. And we can actually do it to the bottom as well. I was gonna like copy and, you know, copy the top one, but it didn't really take that too long. And the other good thing about that is the fact that we flattened them separately. It's kind of nice that they're not completely symmetrical. So another thing I like to do is pay attention to, I want to use move or drag. I like to pay attention to weights of things. So for example, like this bottom one is on the plate. So I'm going to use select mask, make sure I'm on the bottom one. And I think we can turn, let's go into symmetry and turn Y off. We just want X. So I'm in the select mask tool with rectangle, and I'm just going to go ahead and mask that little bit. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to take select mask again. I want to go a little bit lower and just make this a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to clear it. So hopefully when I smooth this, it'll just look like, oh, what's happening? So I'm going to flatten these because that's why the layer was acting funny, because I had the layers. So now I'm going to smooth this, and I really just want it to look like it show a little weight. So I wanted to make the bottom a little bit wider. And I want to do the same for this one. So first I'm going to, maybe I'll offset it in a bit, but I'm just going to use move, and I'm going to slowly, let's go ahead and turn Y off. And actually we can turn symmetry off. We don't need it to be symmetrical. So I'm just going to kind of go around, pull this down. Go ahead and flatten all this as well. So I'm just flattening this pancake a little bit. I'll make move tool a little bit bigger. Maybe I'll move it off to the side a little bit. And then when I move it off to the side, I'll kind of like make the side a little lower. And again, the reason why I like to do this is because it shows that there's weight, a little bit of weight. Even if they're light, I just think it looks a little bit that much more realistic if they have a little bit of weight. This is real puffy back here. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so let's add some syrup on top. So the way I would do this is using the mask tool, and we're going to use this top souffle. And first let's use select mask first actually, and just mask off the very top. Like this, and then we'll use the mask tool. I gotta figure out a good way to sit. Excuse me. So, and now we just need to make the drips. And I think, how do I want to make the drips? This is like an ongoing thing. I need to find a better way to do drips, and we're gonna find it together. So maybe I'll use like ellipse with a circle. And like not only this, I won't only do it this way, but I think it'll make sense once you kind of see what I'm doing. Oh, do I have symmetry on? Do I have symmetry on? No, I don't. Seems like I do. But anyway, now we'll go back to mask and make it smaller and really get in there. Get a nice curve. It just kind of helps. I find that doing curves like drips are kind of difficult for some reason, but I think they're easier when I start with a sphere. They tend to look better. This is a thickum right here, which is okay. It might be a little too thick. I'm going to hit solo so I can see what's going on. You can also erase some of these too. You know what? I don't think that they're usually this wide. Oops. It's like pretty good and syrupy. This is the only weird thing, is they have to look like they're going straight down, because gravity is going to bring it straight down. It's not going to bring it like off to one side. So that's like the only thing that I have to be careful of. Okay, what does the front look like? Oh, the front has like 3 that are like almost matching, which is never good. You never want to have ones that are like matching like this. So whatever you do, figure out a way to have them not match. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now we need to extract this piece. So we need to use the mask to extract a new mesh, and it'll be this shape. And then we'll just have to smooth it up, and it'll look like it's laying right on top. So we do that in the mask settings. So we just tap on the mask settings, and they have this shell thing here. So if you just go down, you'll notice that there's extract. Mine is shell, but you can look at this and see if it's the same. So if you hit extract, then you can see that it makes a shape like this, which is close. It's actually not too bad. It might be a little thick, but that actually might work, this size. So we go back here, and you can hit undo, and you can try and, if you need to make it smaller, the uniform thickness, you can actually bring that down a bit. And hit extract again, and then it's a little bit smaller. But in my experience, a little bit bigger is better. That might be good. I can't remember if I chose all. Let me undo. All. Yeah, all looks better. Yeah, that looks good, I think. So we're going to hit this souffle. We're still in mask, so we'll go to the mask settings and just clear it from that bottom part. So now I'm going to tap this, and I'm just going to change the color to kind of like a nice amber color like this for now. Looks good. So now we can actually just use these tools. So we're going to use move. It actually came out really smooth. I'm actually quite shocked. Usually it doesn't look that good. So I'm going to use move tool, and let's go ahead and rename this actually. So this is syrup. And see how it's like coming off and doesn't really look realistic? So that's an issue. First, let me try smoothing it. And just, I want to see how much it smooths or how much it moves. Okay, so it's pretty solid, so that's good. So we can take move, make it a little bit bigger, and we just want to hug this stuff to the pancake, to the souffle pancake. So literally just go around and smooth all this right in. You can see the big difference with like the shadow. Once things are like touching the surface, it just looks way more realistic. Okay, so now this looks pretty good. Everything is flattened. Also make sure you flatten the top a little bit. So hit solo again, and now we have something like this. Looks like a caramel sauce. So now I want to put a little dollop on top as well. What do I want to use for this? I think I want to use a torus. So we'll just use our gizmo and bring that up. And let's make it much smaller. Maybe a little bit bigger like this. Looks great. Maybe a tad smaller. So something like that. I'm going to go ahead and validate it. This is going to be our cream. So that's one piece. But I also want to make, let's use the tube tool. And we'll use path. We don't need snap. And I just want to make it a little more fun. Kind of flew through that. So with the path tool, you just touch the screen and then move. Touch the screen in a different spot and then move. So that's how you make the points. Oh, and I guess you can't undo when you do that. Good to know. To get rid of them, you can just drag them together. So I just made these 3 points here. You can see that's very odd, but I'll curl it back towards the middle. And I just want to make this like, you know, like a little whip. Maybe I'll add another one here. I don't know why it's being so difficult. Okay, so I know this looks a bit strange, so we'll bring it right into that one. And let's hit radius, and this side can be nice and big. Move it down. And actually, let's hit radius again, because this side is going to be nice and big as well. Move that right inside. And we'll make these subsequent ones a little thicker as well. Maybe we'll add another one if we need. So something like this, but just a little less like poop. Even though it's actually quite, that kind of is a good description of what we're making. Pivot, center pivot, just to kind of center it. Oops. Center it, hit pivot again, I can move this around. It's probably easier than trying to move the nodes around. And that's pretty good. The only thing is I just wanted to be a little bit more in the middle. So just adjust yours so there's a little like kind of little poupée type shape for your cream. Alright, so I think this looks pretty good. So now we can validate, and then we can take the torus and this shape. So we'll take this, the cream and the tube, and we can just voxel remesh them together. I'm going to do a quick save. We'll voxel remesh them together around 150. Okay, we have some ribs going on. So I'm going to undo, and then before I voxel remesh, I'll go to this, which is 1000. It's kind of small, so I'm just going to go here, multi-res, and then subdivide it. So now when I voxel remesh them together, let's see the tube and the cream. I just want to see the sizes. They're a little closer together, so let's see if we voxel remesh at 150 now. It's a little bit better. Hit front. I'm going to take trim and rectangle and just trim the bottom a little bit. And then I want to take smooth, just kind of smooth it up a bit. Hit solo so things don't get in our way. Don't really need symmetry since this shape is not symmetrical. That looks good. That's a nice dollop. I'll go ahead and smooth the bottom too. I'm just going to do a little flatten on this edge. Not that it really needs it, but you know how I am. Hit solo again. Perfect. Now for the cream color, obviously white is good. We want a little bit of roughness, but I actually think I like a little bit of cool color with the cream. Just like slightly. I don't know. I feel like with whipped cream, there's always like a slight, it's more of a cool color. Okay, so let's move this down into our syrup. And we can actually hide the syrup because I want to see how close it is to the... Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm going to take move. Just kind of... form fit it. See, some parts don't even really touch. So I just want to mitigate that. So it looks like it's actually on there. That looks pretty good. Let's hit front. Perfect. I'll probably turn these lines off. Okay, so now let's bring back our syrup. We probably want to put some in the plate too, huh? Alright, let's add a sphere. Do a quick save. Okay, so we'll use the gizmo, we'll bring it up and flatten it. And then we can widen it. Actually, it's probably... So I want it to be something like this. Looks like we need to make it a bit smaller. So something like that for the syrup I think works well. But of course, we don't want... Oh, you know what else we could do for the syrup? A way that I haven't done it. Normally, I would just do it this way. And I would take that and then paint that, and that would be the syrup. Not sure if that's the easiest way. I'm going to go ahead and validate it. Then I'm going to hit drag, because we don't want it just to be like a regular, you know, it has to have a little variation. So I think drag is pretty good. It's just like keeping this from being too too similar. Go ahead and smooth it. The other way that I was going to do it, which I probably don't have to, this actually worked out pretty well. Probably don't have to do it the other way. Make sure I don't know actually. So there's one way to do it. I'm gonna go ahead and hide this. So the other way that I was thinking is just to use the plate. We'll take mask. We can use symmetry at first. And then honestly, we can just kind of do like we did before. Let me turn off symmetry. So we just do something like this. I think that's pretty good. And I wonder if we can even do some little like, I don't know, some little like things like that. Feels right to me. Let's get underneath there. You can hit solo on the plate if we want to just cover the whole thing. So now we can go into the options and just do shell again. So if we extract, what did we do before? We have it on all. So if we extract, that looked a bit weird. What if I turn this up and extract? It's a little bit higher, but it's still not. It's quite strange, actually. Sharp border. Let's see what sharp border does. Ooh, okay. Borders only. Interesting. So we'll just do all. We'll do extract. And it doesn't quite match up with everything, but it still looks really good. So what I'm going to do is take drag. And I'm actually going to, we can actually paint it. So I'm going to take drag and just try to fill this in a little bit. I mean, why not? So we fill, this really didn't work here, this little pieces. But I've never really done syrup this way, so, but I like trying new ways to get to what I need. It's fun. So I think that's pretty good. Let's take the plate and get rid of the mask. Clear. It's a bit hard to see if it's actually on the plate, but same thing, just use move tool and make sure that it's on the plate. All right, two things I noticed that happened to me. First, I'm gonna take the backdrop and tabletop and just hit these two little eyeballs. Okay, so now those are hidden, and I noticed that mine is actually, the mask must have went through to the other side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this, because this is all connected. So I'm gonna take trim with a rectangle, and I'm just gonna trim this bottom part. Don't need that there. And the rest of this I think looks pretty good. It does look like it's on the plate. So just double check all that. Give it a nice push so that everything is nice and flat. Looks good. This looks a little flat to me. So you don't want it to be too flat like that, so it would be nice to have one go all the way down. If I was going to do that, I would probably just use the tube tool. So let's say in the front, let's say we wanted these two coming all the way down. I'll use path and snap. And literally I'll just make the path. So I bring one here. Or would it go straight down? It would go down a little bit and then it would probably fall. I'll make another one here. Whoops. So then we have one. I hate when that happens. And the one thing I want to make sure that it is absolutely straight, because gravity will pull something straight down. If it has a curve, oh yeah. Let me turn snap off. It's making my life difficult. I want it to be straight down. Okay, it's not bad. I'll add another one here so I can get a little bit of a curve. Okay, so now we have this this lovely tube here that we can easily turn into syrup. So first I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And then tap these three dots, change post subdivision to 2. Turn this down to 4. So tube topology is now down to 4. You can make it bigger again. And I'm going to hit radius. And I'll make this a little bit bigger down here. Oh, I want to hit radius for all of them. That way we can kind of match this a little bit. Why they're all moving. That's perfect. Look at that. That's what we want. Might be a little thick on this side. Something like that is very good. You can go ahead and paint it. Looks nice. So let's add another one just because, for practice sake. I'm going to go ahead and validate that. Let's use path. And snap is good. And we'll just make another one here, I think. Something like this. Turn snap off. Else it's going to keep going crazy. And we'll add a little node there. And maybe this is the end of the line for this one. Okay, make sure it's straight. Okay, so now let's do post subdivision to 2. This division X to 4. And then all the radii, all the radiuses. We'll make this one a little bit wider. We'll make the bottom one wider. We'll make the middle one thinner. So something like this. So now I'm just trying to maneuver this. I really want it to be touching. So I think that looks pretty nice. I think that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and validate it, color it. So now we have these two that are falling all the way. Probably should have put another one on this side. I wonder if I can just take this one, clone it. Let's do a line. I wonder if I can just bring it over here. Spin it around. Let's take it off of a line. So I'm gonna turn snap off as well. So it's a little bit, the shape is a little bit different. So it kind of makes sense that it's not perfectly perfect. But I'll just use drag and just kind of like, you know, kind of spread it out a little bit. And then you can use move to kind of make it a little bit more like it's conforming to this shape. Maybe a little smooth action. Yeah, that's pretty good. So now that we have all of these pieces, so all these tubes, how big are they? They're very, very small. So what I want to do is, so all these tubes, there's a tube here. So 1, 2, 3 tubes. Let's join them. And then let's subdivide them. So we subdivided them, so now all the tubes are 51K. And I want to voxel remesh them to the syrup. So we'll grab both of those, and then let's voxel remesh them together at like 200. And just see what happens. Hopefully, it'll be a successful marriage of the two, which it looks like it is. It's actually quite successful. Do a little smooth action. Very successful. And if this might be a little too egregious here. So I'm just going to pull it in tight. Okay. So, you know, I want to do a little kawaii face. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll hit front so we know we're looking at the front. We'll go ahead and add a sphere. And with the gizmo, we'll move it up, forward. We'll make it small. So I think right about there is good. Go ahead and mirror it. And we can actually turn these black so we can see what's popping. And we'll use gizmo and we'll move them in to the head. And they're not. Okay, so the pancake isn't perfectly perfect. So that means, what does that mean actually? It doesn't really mean much, to be honest. So I'm going to take the mirror off. Actually, you know what? We can leave it. We can leave it. But I do want to flatten the eyes a little bit. So what I mean by that is I do want to flatten the eye a bit. Bring it back down to the surface. Oops. Kind of even it out a little bit. I always do this. I just think it's better. So that looks pretty cute. All right, so now I'm going to take these eyes and validate them. And then I'm going to separate them. And then this eye, I'm just going to have to move out a little bit. There we go. So I can just put them together again. And rename this eyes. But what kind of mouth is he gonna have? I think I want to do, I should just do a simple mouth. So let's use a sphere. We'll go ahead and paint it black. Gizmo, up and forward, shrink. So we'll tap Gizmo, we'll validate this. So now we have our sphere, which will be our mouth. So the mouth, we're going to do some interesting things too. So symmetry, X is already selected, so that's good. X is always left and right. And we want to stretch this from like left and right from the middle. That might not make sense, but it will in a second. Symmetry, vertex, vertex, red arrow, boom. Might be a little big. Shrink it down. Oop, not the thing. You want the arrow. That's good. Go ahead and turn these off. Not off, but back to auto. So that looks good. I'm going to do a quick save, and then I'm going to voxel remesh this little mouth at like 150 or so. And the reason why I do that, I'm just going to smooth it, even though I probably don't have to. The reason why I do that is because sometimes I like to take the move tool and give it a little bit of a smile, but it only works when you voxel remesh. If you don't voxel remesh, it will look terrible. So I'm going to shrink this a little bit this way. I'm going to take move again, and I'm just going to move it to give it a little bend so it fits on the face better. It actually looks kind of cute that it's like, it almost looks like I meant to do it that way. It's one of those like happy little accidents, but I did not. So we'll move it out, and then we'll tilt it a little bit. Pivot, center, pivot. We'll make it smaller. We'll move it more towards the middle. It looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and clone these eyes. And let's make these, do I want to make them eye dots or the cheek areas? I don't know. Eye dots. I'll probably get rid of these, but that's okay. So move them up. And I think I might be able to actually put this to vertex and control them. Oh, nope. Symmetry and vertex. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Let's shrink. This is just a stylistic thing I always do. I always add these little eye dots. Although it's kind of hard when they're... Let's turn symmetry off and see if I can spin them. That's better. Oh. I wanted to... Oh, let's do it with drag. I just wanted to kind of point them in a direction a little bit. Yeah, real small like. I think I like that, but I want to change the color. I want to make it like a lighter. be a lighter color, I think. I like to experiment with different shapes of mouths, different shapes of eyes, things like that. Split these again. Sometimes I just use split if I'm too lazy. You can just like split the eyes, for example, and then you can move them independently. I wonder if I want the eyes to be smaller. I think smaller eyes might be a little more cute. It is cute, but they don't look even. So just make sure they're even. So I want to try something with the mouth. So I have the mouth. I'm going to do pivot, center, pivot on the mouth. I'm going to move it over a little bit and then tilt it this way. And then I'm going to go to the symmetry options, mirroring left to right. Tap left to right. Oh, look at that. Let's see, does it put them in a mirror? It doesn't. So are they separate? They're not. Let me turn off stroke painting. So I just want to see if I can use drag to sort of get them to be a little bit more W'd. Oh yeah. I like that. It's pretty cute. Let's see if I make it a little bit smaller. Make sure it's in the middle, or in the middle enough. It looks in the middle enough. Is it high enough? I would say so. Okay. Looks good. So I think we're in a very good place. So let's turn back on the backdrop and the tabletop. Take a look. Let's go ahead and put on post-process. I just want to see what everything looks like. Let's turn the environment off. So it's going to go dark, but we'll add a light. And I'm going to put the intensity to 2. And I want it to be more of a side glow. Oh. To go back to Gizmo, let me go back to my light. Come on, please. There we go. So I'll move the light over here. And I want the light to be more from the side. There we go. I'm trying to control that shadow. So that looks pretty good. So that's one light. This can be the key. Let's go ahead and clone that light, and we'll name this R2. And this light, maybe we'll do pointing down some. I really want the scene to be kind of bright. So I think I like that, sort of pointing down. Doesn't matter where this light is, I'll put it back over here, but I'll put it up. You know what, I'll put it up here, kind of where the way that it's pointed. So that looks pretty good. Let's take a, let's add another light. Let's change it to a spotlight. So the spotlight we can kind of hit from this side. I'm going to use this orange node to make that bigger. Whoop. I'm trying to move it back now, but it won't let me. I want to make sure this light is pointing at our pancakes here. It looks good. And we do have another light. Maybe we'll do it back on the other side. So let's go ahead and clone this light. It's always so hard to just move these things. Gizmo can be so tricky sometimes because there's so many other things connected to the gizmo. And I'm like, I wish there was a way to minimize what's on the gizmo. I kind of like it hitting the back wall a bit, actually. So we'll take the orange node and make it a bit bigger. And maybe we can back it up away from the wall a little bit. I think that looks good. Maybe even turn it up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to do a quick save. The only other thing would have been nice to have something kind of on his face, but I would say he's pretty bright. So the whipped cream is a little bright, so I'm going to go to the key and just maybe turn it down a little bit. Sometimes I go through, oh, it could be this, it could be R2. Ooh, and it could be this light as well. This is very bright. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to turn back on the environment, which will make it too bright. So I'll need to turn the environment down. And then I like to check with and without the environment. The environment is just like a nice fill light, kind of fills it out a little bit. So I think that looks pretty good. So the only other thing we have to do is, of course, make this syrup. I'm going to go ahead and hit perspective so we should be able to see down into the plate a little bit better. All right, I like this view, so I'm going to save it. Add view. This will be one. We'll do a quick save. So the other thing we need to do is obviously make the syrup look like syrup. All right, so now we just need to make the syrup actually look like syrup. So first we're going to tap on this syrup, and we can actually link the bottom syrup as well. So we'll take this syrup. Help me out here. There we go. So plate X and syrup, and for now we can just join them. So now we have syrup. So all we want to do is go to the material tab and change it to refraction. You can turn the reflectance up a little bit. And I'm going to turn the refraction down a little bit. To maybe about there. I'm going to hit Paint Glossy. I'll tap Absorption. And I'm going to change this color to be a little bit brighter. Override painting, so I'm going to turn surface glossiness up a little bit to like 0.3 or so. And I'm going to turn interior roughness up to maybe 0.5 or 0.6, something like that. And then I'm going to move down. Okay, you can go away. And I'm going to turn cast shadows off. So the last thing is I kind of like this color, but it might work that it needs to be a little bit brighter. So then I'll just tap the actual paint color and you can adjust that as well. Turn the roughness down a bit. So you can adjust it to where you like it. I think I might like it like this, actually. Make it a little bit lighter. Okay, that looks pretty good. I want to double check my lighting. Okay, we did all the lighting. We have our environment. Just make sure that we are in post-process. And now it's just a matter of finding the right angle to export. I like to be able to see the syrup in the plate a little bit. And you accidentally hit undo. I kind of like it like this, actually. I would like to see the syrup, but I kind of like it like this. Maybe I can play around with it and make the plate more shallow. But essentially that's it. So the only other things that I would say is to go through the lighting and, you know, just try different things to see how it looks. So there's different ways that you can just make it look different and kind of make it look a little bit more realistic. I always like my scenes a little bit darker, but I'm going to keep it bright. I'll keep it bright for this. So, okay, post-process, the quality is all the way up. I just want to show you my post-process settings here. You can adjust these if you want to kind of adjust them. Make the shadows and everything a little bit brighter or darker. And here's my tone mapping. Here's what it looks like without it. It's just a little like soft without it, so I usually use these settings. Well, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to save this view. Add view. And this can be 2. That looks nice with the perspective on as well. We'll save this view as well, if I can find the view. Sometimes I just have brain farts. Yeah, I think it looks great. So the only other things that I might do to this is maybe add some texture, and you can maybe add some little fruits and stuff around it. But honestly, I think this is really good for now, because the other stuff is a little more advanced when you start adding textures and stuff like that. So I think this is good for now. I can't wait to see what you make. Make some fun food. Be sure to tag me in social media, and I hope you enjoyed it. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. Oh, also, and here's how you export your image. Go here to the little folder, and you can go to render, and you can render the screen or 4K, whatever you want to do. You can render the screen and then just hit export, and it will export as PNG. All right. I think I uploaded this Godzilla STL and some other STLs. I'm uploading them all to Patreon. It's going to take me a while to get a bunch up there, but I'm just going to start uploading a bunch of stuff to Patreon because why not? A lot of people want the STLs and things like that. If you want the files and stuff, just let me know. I'm going to put everything on my Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.